Welcome, welcome, welcome. Guess who's back? Welcome to the Mortgage Mayhem podcast, where the real estate meets real talk. I'm your humble host, G Money, and today, man, we got a show full of turbulence, controversy, and opportunity. From Diddy's jet raking in millions while he faces the fight of his life to a new COVID variant making the rounds. The streets are buzzing, but we're not just here for the tea, we're here for the tools. We got four brand new real estate hacks, and today's deep dives takes us into the world of central lending. If you're a borrower, investor, or just trying to break through, this is your moment. Let's go.
Welcome to the Mortgage Mayhem podcast, where the mortgage game meets real life, real talk, and a whole lot of chaos. We break down the deals, the drama, and the data behind the scenes of real estate finance, with a twist of street smarts, savvy, and a touch of madness. Before we dive in, here's the deal. The Mortgage Mayhem podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys, CPAs, or licensed financial advisors, and nothing you hear on this show should be taken as legal, financial, or investment advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making financial decisions.
All right, guys, we got a lot of stuff going on today. We talking Diddy's jet making $4 million while he's on trial. We talk about the new COVID variant that's spreading through the U.S. We got the GOP budget cuts, FEMA funds Trump golf trips. We got cancer causing chemicals found in braiding hair. Black ownership is up, but cost burden remains. Tariffs are hitting black hair care hard. Supreme Court upholds the AR-15 ban in Maryland. Black women and student debt. A Tulsa mayor proposes $100 million trust for Black Wall Street descendants. And the one big, beautiful bill, we're going to talk about the new bill that's out there in Congress that everybody's doing cartwheels and backflips about. So we're going to get off into that. Then we got, of course, our four mortgage and real estate hacks. And then we're going to round it out with central lending as we do our deep dive. My correspondents are back and excited to get into that. So let's get this thing going. All right, first thing first. Let me get to it. Let's talk about this young man right here. Diddy has reportedly made $4 million renting his private jet since he's been arrested. As Sean Diddy Combs faces an ongoing federal RICO trial, he's dealing with mounting legal expenses, but also generating millions from an unexpected source, his private jet. According to the U.S. Sun, Diddy's Gulfstream G550 jet has earned about $4 million over the last 8 months while he's been behind bars. The 14-seat aircraft has completed roughly 126 flights since September 2024, with customers booking it through luxury charter platforms, often unaware that Diddy owns it. Managed by Silver Air, a high-end charter operator, the jet oversees flights nearly every other day, covering over 149,000 miles. Listings suggest that renting the jet costs at least $32,597 per trip. Meanwhile, Diddy is fighting serious charges, including racketeering conspiracy, trafficking, and transporting individuals for crimes that could result in a life sentence if convicted. He has pleaded not guilty. Testimony continues in Manhattan, where a former personal assistant referred as Mia has accused him of multiple instances of SA. The trial has captured public attention and new details emerge about both the case and Diddy's business affairs, folks. What y'all think about that? Diddy's like, you know what? You might got me down here in this court, but it ain't gonna stop me from generating revenue from my assets. That's what it looks like to me. You just got a plane sitting there. You got all the connections that you need to get money from, the actual plane that you purchased. It just makes sense. Although any and everything that I've been hearing about Diddy has been just insane and just nasty, to say the least. You still got to take care of your business, no matter what you might be going through. And with him, he got big price lawyers. He was already net worth had dropped from $1 billion to a half of, 400, roughly 400, 500 million. I'm pretty sure them lawyers, them retainers, them hourly is upwards into 100 million by now. Diddy got to keep doing what he got to do to bring in that money. I mean, that 4 million could be to upkeep the family while he's fighting his case. Because 4 million ain't gonna do nothing to this case. He gonna have to. It's got to be just some auxiliary income, for the family to keep up them lifestyles that they're used to having without him having to reach into that bucket of money that's paying for these high priced lawyers. So, I like I said, Diddy and the things that I'm hearing just via the internet about the things that he has been up to has been nothing but insanity. But at the same time, this man got to make money. He can't make money from the jail. At least you probably think you can make money from the jail. But if you got assets that's meaningful, you can still get money. And that's since September. He racked up about 4 million. Not a bad investment when you really look at it. I'm pretty sure he has to pay some of the auxiliary costs for the jet. But for the most part, that's just money he's putting in the pocket, and I believe it's just money to kind of maintain, the family while he's going through this up and down roller coaster, crazy world that he's been a part of, privy to, and now he's in all kind of hot water. So we'll keep our eyes on Diddy, see if he got some other things that he might be up to, on the financial side. Because at the end of the day, you don't make it to be a billionaire and not know what you're doing. So Diddy is definitely savvy when it comes to business. Seems like he always have been. And it's just one more, instance that he took himself out of who he is as a rotten person, based off of what I'm hearing, allegedly, and got back into his business bag to make sure that he has some extra cash flowing, to take care of whatever it is that he needs to take care of. So we'll keep an eye on Diddy and his moves, and report back if necessary. All right, let's keep this thing moving. What are we doing here? Not again is a true statement. New dangerous COVID variant from China hits U.S. Officials request mass mandates. We can't go through that again. According to multiple reports, a new COVID variant from China called NB181 is spreading quickly in California. Health officials say it is most contagious. It is more contagious than any other recent strains, and can lead to more people getting sick or ending up in the hospital. DB181 has grown from 2% of the cases in April to 19% now. It's also been found in New York, Hawaii, Virginia, and a few other states. Doctors say this variant spreads fast and might be harder to control. Some are even calling for masks to come back in places like California. The CDC isn't tracking it yet, but health experts are warning that more COVID spikes could happen if people aren't careful. Listen here. We don't have time for no more COVID. I don't even want to bring y'all in your minds back to COVID originally and what we had to go through for them 2 years. So if there's another, strain that's out here, you know what? I'm kind of. I think I understand now about COVID. I think COVID is just a new flu. I mean, of course, we got to pay a little close attention to it to make sure we're not 1,000 deaths, 2,000, 200,000 deaths, all that craziness. But I think we pretty much got a grip on it now. People vaccinated, people not vaccinated. And to me, it just seemed like COVID is the new flu. It may be a little harder for you to recover, but the flu can have you down and out as well. So, although this is alarming, I'm just, we'll keep an eye on this. I don't think we got too much to worry about when it comes to COVID anymore. I think we got the necessary tools to handle whatever strain may come to the forefront. Now, if something else pops up, then that's a different story. A different strain, disease, whatever, pandemic, outside of what COVID is, that could always happen. But COVID itself, I think we pretty much got control of it. And we shouldn't be having any major outbreaks going forward. But we're definitely got our eyes on it. That's why I brought it up. I'm like, no, 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 no. We can't go through that again. That was not living right there. I mean, stuck in the house. It was it. I won't bring you guys back to it because I know everybody has their own horror story about COVID. So we'll just keep it moving, and we'll talk about not this. Where is those guys here? All right, so the GOP budget has $0 for FEMA emergency management funding, which is crazy. Yet provides 300 million to pay for Trump's golf trips. Extreme weather doesn't discriminate between red and blue districts. The GOP is choosing Trump's golf over the safety and security of their constituents. 14 million people would lose health care. $700 billion slash for Medicaid. An estimated 26,000 preventable deaths per year. 3 trillion plus to the deficit. This is the Republicans' priority. A bill proposing $880 billion in cuts largely to Medicaid to help fund $4.5 trillion in tax breaks for the richest few, central to Trump's economic agenda. The Republicans' big, beautiful bill comes down to this simple fact. They want to facilitate a massive transfer of wealth to the richest Americans while making cuts that would rip away health care and meals for millions of vulnerable people. By 2029, anyone making less than $15,000 would see a 53% tax increase. It does not remove taxes from Social Security. It does not remove taxes on tips. Empty promises is a civic warning. Willing and are you willing to buy it? Trump's tax bill is a quote unquote failure and will only benefit the rich, which will have the tax cut that should have ended this year made permanent. This tax cut will be paid by those with the lowest income. This is what people are saying people actually voted for. All right, so let me kind of break this down, right? I don't, look, I'm not a Trump on here trying to be a Trump hater. That's not what I'm doing. Um, I'm just talking about whatever I want to talk about. And to me, the man, it's the highest, it's a high power job. That's his outlet playing golf. And, he's not about to pay for playing golf. All presidents play golf. This is the same complaint everybody has had. each presidency, the president plays too much golf. We're paying taxpayer dollars. Paying. Look, this is these guys' outlet. This is how they go to refresh. To get back to trying to make decisions for the country. Then that's just how it's got to be. We can't be mad at these guys because they want to play golf. Now, the dollar amount, that's neither here nor there. Look, the dollar's going to be what the dollar's going to be. And if this guy wants to play golf, then that's what he wants to do. We can't be, crying about that. Like I said, every president that I've been tracking since I can track presidents, this is the outcry that everyone has. The other side, he playing golf, he should be doing something else with the money, blah, blah, blah. No, he playing golf because he's in control of the United States of America. It's not an easy job. You need to be able to get away from it and do some things that will allow you to come back to it and get doing what you're supposed to be doing, allegedly, right? So here, all right, there's a lot of other things that could be going on. Money could be going here, money could be going there, but there's enough money to take care of all these things. Really, at the end of the day, we just refuse to just say we have the money. If we want to take care of everything, we can actually take care of everything. Yeah, we may be in debt, but it may be debt worth being in debt for. If we can clear, make sure everybody's, getting the kind of health care that they need, making sure that we're figuring out ways to like really cut things that make sense. Those are the things that needs to be happening. You know what I'm saying? FEMA not getting money is crazy. They need to fix that. Maybe that was a typo or something in the bill. But for FEMA not to be able to have money with all these major devastations that occurs on a regular basis is just insane. Why would we not have FEMA prepared to handle whatever comes, their way? So I don't know what that's about. I think it might be climate deniers that's making this like their political move. We don't believe in climate, whatever. So there shouldn't be a need for FEMA. They may not even want FEMA to be in existence. If it happens, we'll figure out a way to pay for it. Disaster, emergency management. But everybody needs FEMA. Like these people that's voting against it, if something happens in your state, you're going to want FEMA to be running down the freeway to get to you. So I don't understand why they wouldn't provide funding for FEMA. I don't get that. So, like I said, we'll keep our eye on that as well. It doesn't make a lot of good sense to me, but they always they always have a reason to not do something that makes all the sense in the world to do. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes on it. All right. So let's keep it moving. Is this what we want? Okay. This is what we want. Because I just, I come from, I wanted to bring this up. Many of the top synthetic braiding hair brands tested positive for cancer causing chemicals like benzene and milethyl chloride, and 9 out of 10 contain lead, a toxic metal linked to kidney, reproductive, and neurological damage. These products are worn mostly by Black women, often for long periods, increasing their exposure to harmful chemicals through the scalp or inhalation. Experts are now pushing for a stronger regulation and safer alternatives in a market that has long ignored the well-being of Black consumers. Right. So I don't know what's up with that. I know it's a lot of you know sisters out here using these products. So I want to just bring attention to it. I don't want to elaborate on it, but if you're out there buying these materials and you know that they have these different cancer causing chemicals, then it's up to the women that's the consumer, to protest that these products become safer. If you got to take it through legislation, whatever you got to do, because like they said, the majority of people who are wearing the product is African American women. And, they already say people don't care about African American women or whatever the case may be. We can't just be low key, our sisters getting taken out of here because of some damn hair weave or wig. Make these things safe. You can make a killing. I mean, I don't know if whatever these chemicals are makes the wigs and the hair silky smooth. I don't know what these chemicals actually do to the product where they wouldn't take the chemicals out and still have a good product. But whatever it is, if it's killing people, the manufacturers and the producers of these products need to sit their ASS down somewhere and come up with a remedy that will stop these women from getting cancer because of the wigs and the hair that they put in their head. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up because I don't want anybody, Black or white, dying because of products that could easily be brought to a safe place where people can use them without the fear of getting cancer. That's crazy. But anyway, we'll keep it moving. We'll keep our eye on that as well. But let's go here. So, Black home ownership rate sees largest annual increase, but because Black homeowners experience higher cost burdens, more than 30% of their income is spent on housing costs. Black home ownership, um, more than 30% of their income is spent on their housing costs. In 2023, Black Americans saw the biggest jump in home ownership compared to other racial groups, rising to 44.7%. Still, that's far behind white home ownership at 72.4%. Hispanic and Asian rates were also higher than Black Americans at 51% and 63.4%, respectively. Even with more homeowners overall and gains since 2013, the gap between Black and white home ownership has widened to 28 percentage points. Hispanic Americans saw the biggest gain since 2013, adding 3.5 million homeowners. Rent and housing costs remain major issues. Almost half of renters spent over 30% of their income on rent, and Black renters are more affected in most states. Black homeowners also face higher housing cost burdens in 39 states, and Black and Hispanic buyers are denied mortgages at much higher rates than white or Asian applicants. Student loan debt is another obstacle. A large share of Black, 42%, and Hispanic, 23%, home buyers still carry student loans, with both Black and white buyers averaging $30,000 in debt. Black buyers often rely on retirement funds and down payment assistance programs where the other groups don't. Discrimination is still a problem. Nearly half of Black buyers say they were offered different loan products based on their race. Despite these challenges, non-white buyers are more likely to be first-time homeowners, and their numbers are expected to grow. The National Association of Realtors is pushing for policies like better down payment assistance, updated credit models, and more affordable housing to help close the gap and support first time and minority buyers. Okay. Well, you know, it's good to see that, you know, we're rising. I mean, you got to crawl before you walk. So, but what I don't like is seeing, all and everybody else just kind of cleaning our clocks when it comes to, purchasing this real estate because, you can become an investor and, do the business the right way. And whatever kind of real estate you want, you can possess if you go about, doing the right things as an investor. First time home buyers, people that's new to the, to the market, young, um, you know, as long as they tell you what the criteria is in order for you to be the homeowner, then you should be able to go and do whatever it is you need to do to become the homeowner. You can't go into these, once in a lifetime, situations of buying a home without having the information that you need in order to buy the home. You can't, get yourself in situations where you can, kind of be redlined or pushed out because you're not doing the homework on the front end. I've always kind of been like that. Like, you know what? As long as they tell me what the criteria is, then I'm going to make sure that I go about getting whatever it is that I want. And that should be everybody's. I still deal with a lot of people in the investment arena who, come to me to do whatever kind of deal that they're looking to do. And once we get into it, they don't have what it takes to do the deal. So I'm literally having to send people back and say, hey, man, look, or man, look, you got to do X, Y, and Z before you can even, take the first step. You got to have your credit right. That's just real estate 101. If you're buying a house to live in, you got to have the income. That's just real estate 101. So the games that they allow you to play, they all have certain rules, right? So once you find out what the rules are, then you can execute, you can strategize, you cannot be discriminated against if you do the right things. If you vet these companies, if you ask the questions that need to be asked when you're trying to pursue real estate to find out if they discriminate against whatever race you are. There's a way to go about it's 1,800 million companies. You could pick five and just interview them, talk to them as if you have everything that you need to make the purchase, but you just want to find out who you're dealing with. You know, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for references. How many African Americans have you worked with over the past 3 years or over the past 2 years? Ask the hard questions. We can't be afraid to, the old saying, closed mouths don't get fed applies, right? So, yeah, that although those numbers sound, a little crazy, but 30%. It used to be probably 0%, And it probably went up to 2%, 10%, 11, 13. So we up to 30. I see we're 70% white, 30% black, 40% Hispanic, 50% Asians, whatever the case may be. Um, you know, we got to do better. Our people, you got to become smarter. You got to have a game plan. When you're making these major purchases, you got to have a game plan, because that's what in order to do it, it expects you to know: buy a car, buy a house, buy real estate, buy stocks, everything that will potentially help you to get generational wealth. If you don't do your homework prior to, it's probably more than likely not going to happen for you. And if it does, for whatever reason, it's probably going to be a crash and burn situation because you haven't done your homework. You have to do your homework, period. All right. All right. Let's keep it moving. I know we was talking about black hair earlier, but let's continue. Black hair care industry. The black hair care industry is subject to at least 30% tariffs on all imports from China. Price hikes hit beauty salons and beauty supply stores on braided hair and wig imports. All right. So, stylists and beauty supply owners across the U.S., especially in Atlanta, are being forced to raise prices or scale back as the cost of synthetic and human hair, as well as shipping, continues to climb. These price hikes are pushing many consumers to choose between self care and essentials, all while navigating beauty standards that favor Eurocentric styles. Industry professionals are scrambling, some raising prices, others absorbing losses, or asking clients to bring their own supplies. A rollback of tariffs from 125% to 30% may help slightly, but uncertainty remains as U.S. trade talk continues. Compounding the issues are economic disparities and pressures on Black women to conform to professional appearance standards that often require expensive hair treatments. Many salon owners worry that the long term impact will hit low income customers the hardest. Some, like stylist Mitzi Mitchell in Pennsylvania, are stockpiling supplies to delay price hikes. But with supply shortages, business losses, and chemical safety concerns around synthetic products that we talked about earlier, the industry is being forced to adapt quickly and at cost. Okay, so hey, this is a part of the game, right? She gave you some examples of some things you could potentially do until they get this whole, you know, hero thing under some kind of control. Until then, it's just you got to just kind of wait and see. But in the process of waiting and see, now it's the time to figure out, some of this cancer chemical stuff that's going on with the hair. I mean, because why would you be buying that? That's the question. Care where it's coming from. Sound like it's coming from China. Why would you be buying that? And, most of the hair places that I see are Asian ran. So these Asian folk know that this is doing this to the community. Why are we still spending money with them? I don't get it. If you know, I get it. Why, you're doing what you're doing. But come on, it's let's make sense. Let's start being informed, educated consumers. Let's not just be spending our money just to be spending our money because we're caught up in the hype and the whole beautification of the world. Although we want you to be fly, we don't want you to die to be fly. You know what I'm saying? So let's start paying attention to the things we need to be paying attention to, and not so much on, trying to be fly. Because what I just read to you guys earlier, people are dying. You're getting cancer because of your wigs and your hair. And I know you need it because you do be looking fly with it. I ain't gonna even front. You be looking good, but you can be looking good naturally, and not have to worry about getting cancer. I know they say cancer this, cancer that, but you got to be paying attention to this stuff. This is real life detrimental, products that's out on the marketplace that's, hurting people and hurting our people. So, yeah, we'll definitely. I don't even got to keep an eye on that. I'm around too many women that buys hair, that gets braids, that's that. So I'll constantly be reminding them of the article that I read earlier, just to make them a little bit more savvy, and maybe when they go buy stuff, they can start asking the question, does this have this and this in it? Because if it does, you guys do know that this causes cancer. That's what you should be saying to the Asians. And then maybe they'll figure out a way to bring forth a product that doesn't have the potential to either give you cancer or kill you. All right, let's keep it moving. All right. So, in a major win for gun safety advocates, the Supreme Court allows the AR-15 ban in Maryland to continue. So, in a major win for gun safety advocates, Supreme Court allows the AR-15 ban in Maryland. The Supreme Court on Monday turned away an appeal by a group of gun rights advocates seeking to overturn Maryland's ban on assault style rifles and high capacity magazines under the Second Amendment, and they were told no. So the AR-15s, I used to live in Maryland. Now I didn't even know it was a I didn't know it was a ban on AR-15s, but I never heard about any mass shootings in Maryland either while I lived there. And this might be the reason why they don't have AR-15s in Maryland. The Supreme Court, I don't get that. Why would the Supreme Court be okay with the ban in Maryland, but not okay with a universal ban on, assault rifles of this kind, rifles that are used out on the battlefield? Not, it'd be killing me when people be like, my Second Amendment, everybody respects the Second Amendment. That's the thing about it. Nobody is not respecting the the Second Amendment. We just want safe kids in schools. Just the basic things. We want to be able to protect our families, protect ourselves in harm's way. But do you need an AR-15? I mean, we've seen the damage that they've done. So I'm on the side of the gun folks who, it's enough gun power to stop an intruder from coming in your house if that's what need be. Then AR-15. I mean, it's just I get it. They're fun guns. Probably great target practice. Just great. In its way it operates, but they've done too many damage. They've done damage to babies. Who wants to do damage to little kids? What So for them to uphold the AR-15 ban in Maryland, I think that was a good thing on the Supreme Court case. On their side, because you really don't need that. I mean, you really don't. So, all right. So let's keep it moving. All right. All right, so an economic data analysis shows that Black women's average student loan balance is the highest of any racial group. Percentage of those who ever attended college who currently have student loan debt: white men 15.7%, white women 19.9%, Black men 32.1%, Black women 43.3%, Hispanic men 18.9%, Hispanic women 24.1%, and other race or multiracial men 18.1%. Black women 43.3%. That's insane. All right. So as of early 2024, about 43 million Americans owe a combined 1.766 trillion in student loans, a massive jump since 2006. But the weight of the debt isn't shared equally. Black women who've gone to college are the most burdened, with 43.3% of them carrying student debt, which is about double the rate of white women and nearly triple that of white men. Their average debt is also the highest at 11,000. Women across almost all racial groups tend to owe more than men. For example, 24.1 of Hispanic women have student debt compared to 18.9% of Hispanic men. In most cases, women outpace men in debt levels, except among people who are multiracial or from racial ethnic backgrounds, where men actually owe slightly more. The problem is tied to how college is paid for in the U.S. Student loans are often necessary to get a degree, but repayment is deeply affected by racial and gender inequality. Many Black borrowers, especially women, face extra hurdles like limited generational wealth and systematic barriers. While the Biden administration has canceled 132 billion dollars in student debt for millions of people, that's still only a small part, 75% of the total debt out there, with the Supreme Court blocking Biden's larger forgiveness plans and payments resuming after a long pause. The need for more help, especially for Black borrowers and women, is urgent. Okay. Well, that's just the whole world of just the student loan world. I think a lot more sisters out here getting educated than Black men, probably more than any other race, to be honest with you. Um, and they don't come from wealth. They come from, I'm gonna do what I gotta do in order to get this degree. They don't have, generational wealth. They're trying to get generational wealth. So, you know, to have that high number of of all the different classes, to have Black women at 40%, that just lets me know that more women are out here, Black women are out here getting to the bag, trying to educate themselves. And then at some point, I know they're the ones who are actually, paying that debt back, on a regular basis, because most Black women are responsible when it comes to, taking care of their bills, taking care of their debt. But it's just unfortunate that, they have to be in these situations. I'm thinking the next generation will just do better when it comes to debt and student loans and things of that nature, hopefully, unless, education gets, outrageous when it comes to cost. But for the most part, to me, what this tells me is that Black women are out here getting educated at a rapid pace. And in order for them to be able to do that, they have to take some forms of student loans. And, that's what you got to do in order for you to get to, generational wealth. Then that's what you got to do, because education is key. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can make money nowadays, but I, I'm not gonna ever just shy away from the folks who want to be educated, who wants to go. Now, a lot of times it's not practical. You don't even use, what your degree might be in, but it's just being at these universities, being able to mature in college, a college environment. It's just a college environment in itself. So when you leave it, it just gives you a different perspective of how to function in the day-to-day world. So I get being educated. It makes sense. But it's going to cost. Unfortunately, I know in some worlds, some countries, education doesn't cost, but here in America, that it costs. And what we've come to realize is that we got whatever we got to do in order to make it happen. That's what we're gonna do. And in this case, it's taking out student loans, and then in hopes that we can generate enough income when we graduate to pay those student loans off, and then we can hopefully get to a place where we can start generate generational wealth for our kids, so on and so forth. But typically that doesn't happen with just a job. So, the great thing about the new generation is that they're showing the older generation that, you could get money without having a degree. You could get money without being in this profession or that profession. You can be educated in anything without having to go get an education. So that's kind of the new world that we live in. And it's a good thing because we need being an entrepreneur breeds confidence. Once you realize that you can do what you set your mind out to do, then that breeds confidence in everything else that you do. So, you know, I like the fact that you can go get it, but you don't necessarily have to have a formal education to go get it, right? You just got to be educated in whatever it is that can create you revenue. That's it. If it's flipping houses, they don't have a degree for flipping houses. If it's doing Airbnbs, they don't have a degree for you to, do Airbnbs. If it's stocks, I mean, I think you might be able to get somewhat of a degree in how to, but not really. So there's things that you can do without having a degree, but no matter what, you got to be educated in whatever it is that you're doing. All right. So let's kind of keep it moving here, folks. Let's see. I thought this was big when I saw it. The first black mayor of Tulsa, proposes $100 million trust fund giving scholarship and housing help to the descendants of burning of Black Wall Street. So the first black mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, proposes $100 million trust fund giving scholarships and housing help to descendants of the burning of the Black Wall Street. Tulsa's new elected mayor, Monroe Nichols, the first black leader of the city, has introduced a $100 million private trust aimed at supporting the descendants of those affected by the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. The initiative, announced at the historic Greenwood Culture Center, is designed to provide scholarship and housing assistance rather than direct cash payments. Nichols prefers to call the effort a road to repair rather than reparations, acknowledging the deep economic and social wounds left by the massacre and decades of systematic discrimination that followed, including redlining and underinvestment in Tulsa's black community. The trust seeks to amass $150 million in assets by mid 2026, with a major focus on revitalizing North Tulsa, particularly the Greenwood district, once a thriving hub of black commerce known as Black Wall Street. Approximately 60 million will go towards infrastructure and community improvements. This effort mirrors similar initiative in cities like Evanston, Illinois, which has offered reparations funded by marijuana tax revenues, while the two remaining survivors of the massacre, both over 110 years old, wow, have yet to receive formal compensation from the city or state. Sad. The proposal represents a significant step in Tulsa's ongoing journey towards justice and healing, even as legal challenges and political headwinds persist. Wow. Well, this is just, it's par for the course. I mean, we've all never even knew until later in life that it was such thing as a Black Wall Street, which was, definitely something that I'm glad I ended up learning. It was just sad how that all happened. Once again, once they give us the opportunity, we gonna go hard in the paint. We're gonna make sure that it does what it do. And that's what happened here. Right out of slavery, these guys and gals, found an area that they can revitalize and turn it into their own. And, the folks who looked at this and jealousy and hate decided to, kill the folks and burn the place down. And, it was just a mess, just because they couldn't take the fact that this group of bourgeoisie black folk had a way with generating revenue and building generational wealth. They didn't like that, so they burnt that mofo down. And this guy, I don't know who he is. He's a mayor there, and he's stepping up. Reparations ain't just. I don't even know why we still talking about reparations. I get it, maybe at some point somewhere down the long road. But this is how we got to do it. We got to do different things because nobody's just going to give you anything. We know this. So if you become a person of power, not only do you have the ability to affect communities, you have the ability to affect communities like this. You're able to put into the communities, road repairs, new real estate. You can come in and regentrify some of these, just downtrodden areas in hope that you can, bring folks back into these areas who have the wherewithal to maintain this real estate. So it's different things that you can do to help these communities. And I'm not saying no reparations. I'm not saying that because if somebody can figure out a way to get us there, I think we're deserving of it. But I just know how just wicked the world is, especially when it comes to giving black folks anything. So I just don't see it. I think this is a way to do it. If you want to do things for these downtrodden areas where primarily black folks live, you got to go about doing it like this. Propose $100 million trust funds. So, you could give scholarships away to help people go get educated and then come back to their communities and do big things. Build up, like they say, like the affected areas. So, more commerce can come to these areas. And in turn, people who live in these areas can potentially have job opportunities and could potentially, have the upkeep to maintain their newfound, real estate ventures, or newfound homes that they've been able to purchase because, this money can bring forth different avenues to bring revenue in to, help, these communities. So, I, 60 million go towards infrastructure and community improvements. That's a lot. That's going to do some things. 105 million in assets by mid 2026. Focus on revitalizing Tulsa. This is good. Like I said, reparations is one thing, but this is how you put your money where your mouth is. And folks can get in on this and become, true property owners and true business owners. And then from there, you don't even think about reparations because you're getting your reparations right here, right now, by being able to enjoy the capitalistic country that we live in. Right? All right, let's keep it moving. All right, this is going to be yeah, this is going to be interesting right here. The OBBBA. Okay. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025, what it means for the United States economy and politics, right? So the One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025 has officially passed the U.S. House of Representatives, making a significant milestone in the president's legislative agenda. This expansive bill, over 1,000 pages long, now moves to the U.S. Senate for further deliberation, designed to consolidate Trump's key policy proposals. The OBBA is poised to reshape the U.S. economy, redefine federal spending priorities, and influence the Republican Party's electoral strategy. Key features of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act are: the OBBA is a comprehensive legislative package featuring five major components, right? So let's get into them. All right. Permanent tax cuts. The bill locks in the 2017 tax reforms, extending income and real estate tax cuts for individuals and families, right? The targeted tax relief. It introduces new tax reduction on overtime pay, tip wages, and Social Security income, with the White House claiming a 15% tax cut for Americans earning between 30,000 and 80,000 annually. Border security and military spending. The bill allocates increased federal funding to enhance border security measures and military infrastructure. Government waste reduction. Provisions are included to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse in federal spending programs. Debt ceiling increase. The bill proposal raises the U.S. debt ceiling, allowing the federal government to borrow additional funds to meet ongoing financial obligations. While the OBBA promised to deliver tax relief and increase security funding, many economists warn of potential fiscal dangers. The U.S. federal deficit stood at 6.4% of GDP in 2024, approximately 1.9 trillion, and could worsen under the OBBBA. Experts forecast that the debt to GDP ratio may approach 200% with the next decade, a level viewed as economically unsustainable. These concerns have already affected the U.S. government's credit ratings, leading to higher bond yields and increased costs for both the federal government and American consumers. The OBBBA has also come under scrutiny for its redistributive efforts. Critics argue that it primarily benefits high income households while offering limited support to low income Americans, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO. Households in the bottom 10% of income earners could see a 2% decrease in resources by 2027, rising to 4% by 2033. In contrast, households in the top 10% may gain 4% by 2027 and 2% by 2033, mainly due to favorable tax changes. These projections raise significant questions about the bill's impact on income inequality and social equity in the United States. The fate of the OBBBA now rests in the hands of the U.S. Senate, where it will undergo further review and possible amendments. The legislative process may involve intense negotiations between the White House and Senate, requiring a final unified version before it can be signed into law by President Trump. The outcome will not only affect economic policies, but could also shape the Republican Party's 2026 and 2028 electoral prospects, especially among middle income voters and small businesses. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025, in conclusion, is a landmark legislative initiative with far reaching consequences, from tax reform and defense spending to national debt and income distribution. The bill encapsulates the core of President Trump's policy vision. As it advances to the Senate, both supporters and critics will be closely watching to see whether the OBBBA becomes the defining law of Trump's second term or a deeply polarizing chapter in U.S. economic history. Wow. Okay. So, like I said, we'll keep our eye on that. I mean, it's a lot. I looked at the bill last night. I mean, it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? I would advise people to start looking at these bills because you look up, things happen, and you be like, why I didn't know what they doing, why they do this. The bill is public information, folks. You know, that's how they can get away with stuff. They just know, let me put this 1,000-page bill together, add all kind of stuff into it, because the American people ain't reading nothing. They ain't picking up no bills and going through the bills and then getting with their local leaders and voice their opinion about what's in the bill. They just hear, they hope that the information they're getting from their representatives is the information to help them decide if they're with it or not with it, right? Where if you pick up the bill and go through it, you're going to know if you're with it or not with it because you're going to be and read everything that these fools out here are trying to do, right? I read through some stuff. I was just like, what the heck? This is my first time going through a bill because I just wanted, because I said yesterday I was going to come on here and talk about it, after I kind of did some due diligence. But the bill is crazy. It's all kinds of stuff in this bill. It's 1,000 pages. And we should be going through it. And as Americans, we're so busy doing this, doing that. And it's like the country is operating in the background, right? Where that's not the case because the decisions that are being made in the background is going to eventually affect you in your day-to-day life. So you got to be engaged. You got to pay attention to this stuff, right? So anyway, let's keep it moving. We'll keep our eye on that. We'll, bring up some more information. Sounds like it's about to be a all drag down war over in the Senate to make it make sense. So yeah, we'll watch it. We'll see what they're doing. All right. All right. So let's keep it moving. Mortgage and real estate hacks, folks. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get to that right there. Giving the people some more information. I done had 15 shows, 4 times 15. I done gave y'all over. Whoo, that's a lot of hacks. And, I know you probably ain't, maybe as the show grows and, you can go back and listen to some of these hacks. I done gave y'all some whoppers. I done gave y'all like some real good real estate and mortgage hacks to add to your library of hacks. So I don't even understand. You know, in a minute, ain't gonna be no excuses. I'm gonna give you everything you need to be successful out here in the marketplace, right? Anyway, hack number 1: use local utility history to negotiate seller credits. If the seller's utility bill history is high, you can request credits or upgrades before closing, especially in a older home. Nice. I didn't even think about that one. Lease back negotiation for better deal flow. Let sellers stay post close as renters for 30 to 60 days. You will win deals in tight markets and generate instant rent income. I did that on my last place. Create a land hack using zoning. Buy single parcels in dual zone areas. Split residential commercial for higher resale or dual use income streams. Right? That's a nice one. Get multifamily FHA financing with 3.5% down. If you're looking for a quick way to get in the game, this is it. FHA loans can apply to duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. You have to live in one unit, rent the others, and build wealth early. That's the only thing about it. I mean, it ain't a bad thing if you're a new person trying to get into the business and you want, you know, to be close to your real estate. You can live in one of the units. They don't have to know you're the owner, and you can rent out the other units, right? This is that play. Like I wish I'd have knew this when I was young. I would have did this and just rocked out. You only have to be in them for a year. I think it's like a year or 2 years that you're technically supposed to live in them, and then from there, I had about 10 of these. So those are the mortgage hacks for today. Now we're gonna get into my guys. They've been like, Greg, what's going on? When you gonna bring us back up? Blah blah blah. So we're gonna bring them on to the stage. You know what I'm saying? And let them do what they do. I'm gonna bring myself down. Let me do.
Okay, let's dive into the source material we've got for you today. It's some website excerpts directly from Central Lending. We're focusing specifically on what they claim they offer to real estate investors.
Right. And our goal here is pretty simple, really. Just unpack their main promises based only on what's written on these pages.
Exactly. They make some pretty big claims, don't they? Highlighting things like private money, fast money, and an easy process.
Yeah, those are the big three they push. So let's, look at what they say those actually mean.
Okay, first up, private money. What jumps out immediately is how direct they are.
They state, and this is a quote, "Our fund manager approves your scenario, UP Fund T."
And they call that a novel concept, which is interesting phrasing.
It is. That upfront approval seems really key to how they position themselves, like giving investors certainty early on.
Yeah, they frame it as knowing quickly if your deal works for them. It suggests that's a big plus for private funding in their view.
Definitely. So, okay, then there's the fast money claim. This is where they get specific about speed.
Right. The source says explicitly, we can close in as little as 2 business days, usually without an appraisal.
Wow. 2 business days. That is incredibly fast, by almost any standard.
It really is aiming for speed, and they directly link that speed on the site to saving you time and, well, money on your project.
Exactly. It's presented as a clear benefit. And that speed kind of leads into their third big claim, doesn't it? The easy process.
It does. So, what's the core of this easy process, according to their site?
Well, they say they do everything in-house.
Everything.
Processing, closing, and even construction draws. That integrated approach is how they claim to streamline everything.
Okay, so in house basically means they're controlling the whole loan life cycle internally, from the initial paperwork right through to like funding the actual construction work.
Precisely. And the source frames this as making them, quote, the one connection you need, sort of simplifying things for the investor.
Okay, so that's the picture they paint then. Upfront private approval, super fast closing, maybe skipping appraisals, all managed internally in one place.
That seems to be the core message from these claims, yeah.
But beyond just how they operate, the site also lists the specific types of loans they offer, right?
It does. They mention 4 main types aimed at investors:
Which are?
bridge loans, investor rehab loans, ground up construction loans, and also 30-year DSCR loans.
Okay, so that covers quite a range, short-term flips, fixing up properties, new builds, and longer-term rentals.
hmm And DSCR, just quickly, that usually stands for debt service coverage ratio. It's often about the property's income potential, not just the borrower's personal finances.
Right, good clarification, thanks. The source also gives us their operating area where they actually lend.
They lend in all states except for a list of 11.
11 states they don't lend in. Which ones?
Let's see: Alaska, Arizona, California, Idaho, Minnesota, Nevada, North Dakota, Oregon, South Dakota, Utah, and Vermont.
Okay, so quite a few places, including some big ones like California and Arizona, are off the table based on this source. Important detail if you're looking to borrow.
Absolutely. It clearly maps out where they operate, according to the site anyway.
All right, so let's pull this all together then, just based on these website excerpts.
Okay.
Central lending presents itself as offering private money with upfront approvals. They aim for very fast closings, often skipping appraisals.
Uh-huh. And they emphasize an easy, streamlined process because they handle everything in-house.
Right. And they offer specific loans: bridge, rehab, construction, and DSCR.
And geographically, they operate across most of the U.S., but with those 11 specific state exceptions.
Okay. I think that sums up the key claims and details we found directly in the source material we looked at.
Yeah, that covers what the website excerpts tell us.
So, based on this deep dive into just the central lending website info, you get a clear sense of their pitch:
Hmm.
speed, ease, specific investor products.
Mhm.
But here's a thought to leave you with. Given that strong emphasis on how fast and easy their process supposedly is,
Yeah.
what other questions might you, as an investor, want to dig into regarding the specific loan types they mentioned? The bridge, rehab, construction, DSCR loans, to really understand how that promised speed and ease actually plays out with the nitty gritty timelines and, frankly, the potential complexities of your specific project.
That's a great point. How does the promise meet the reality of different deal types?
Exactly. Something to definitely consider as you weigh your financing options.
All right, we're back. That was Central Lending. Thanks, guys, for the deep dive. Glad to see that you're back. They're invaluable. A lot of work that I would be doing. We're able to, partner with them, and they're able to, help us with our deep dives, which is just crazy good. But next week, guys, it's gonna be crazy. We got 2 powerful interviews next week. Monday, Salt Lending. Tuesday, I'm gonna just keep that as a surprise, so to speak. But yeah, we got two big interviews. I'm looking forward to them next Monday. We're gonna start, doing some interviews of some of these companies to kind of help educate you guys live and direct. It's gonna be one of them things where we're just gonna be bringing folks up and we're just gonna let them talk about who they are, what they do, blah blah blah. So on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that. But outside of that, woof, it's been a full plate. And if that wasn't a full plate, I don't know what is, right? From Diddy, Jet to Black Wall Street comebacks, from COVID variants to real estate hacks. We gave you headlines and game today. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on LinkedIn, and join the Mortgage Mayhem Unfiltered community if you haven't already. And if you learned something today, hit that share button, please. The more we grow, the more value we can bring. But until next time, I'm your host, reminding you it's not just about surviving the market. It's about mastering the mayhem, folks. And I am out of here. I'll see you guys next week. This is G Money signing off. Thank you for those who chimed in, who left comments, the whole 9 yards. I appreciate that. I consider you a part of the family. We're just gonna keep growing this thing. I'll be here every week. Don't worry about it. And I look forward to bringing you guys something new next week as well. I'm on top of everything, so you don't have to be. If you're not one who wants to know everything or out here doing everything, I'm doing it for you. So don't worry about it. All right, but I'm out.